Oh, fun fact. Uh, Amy thought she was sending me something, and she
I
was
did the
just
same thing to
pasting.
Brad. I did this
Pasting from her
exact
clipboard,
same thing. I just
and
go
sent
cut,
me
paste, paste, paste.
and sent me Brad's profile picture, which looks great, by the way, but without context. I was like, why is this here?
It's even funnier to me that I sent Brad his own picture.
Yeah, I was like, yep, that's me. That checks out.
Just in case you forget what you look like.
Thank you.
Here you go.
For a picture of me.
You got I'm excited for this episode. Amy, you got something listed on here. I don't even know how to pronounce the Newfi.
I know. I was trying it's my latest experiment.
Yeah. I'm excited. There's also some things on here that I haven't ever heard of. There's definitely some ones that I've heard of, but I'm excited about it. What's up, Mark? Joining us on Twitch. Yeah, we're all about shiny new stuff that we use, which I'm excited to hear comments from people in the chat as well.
I'm streaming on my Twitch channel too. I haven't been live in ages.
Oh, are you really?
I think so. I hooked it up.
Oh, I was like, I didn't turn you on.
It looks like it. I think it's on. Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I see myself live on Twitch.
Oh, you are. Check. I see it now.
Yeah, there we go. Awesome.
Nice. Sweet. I just opened up mine. Got to make sure to mute it as well. Is it yeah, it should be on everything. Do we have inside of there we go. I didn't realize we had this. That's cool. So from inside of StreamYard, we have links to get to the live streams, which is neat. Because usually I go to go into my YouTube dashboard to find the link, but much nicer to have that inside the dashboard here. Love it. Here, I guess we just have Mark. Can I hang it out? If anybody else is in the chat, let us know. But Mark, are there any particular tools that you've used recently that you're excited about? I feel like we're gonna find some really good ones from people that are watching and listening in the chat. Oh, we also need a new automatically generated cover image. Or I don't know. Did you use the auto-generated image, Amy?
No.
Oh, okay. I can't remember if because right now, the cover image looks like Brad as a guest versus us three hosting. So we need to update that too. And I can't remember.
It was fine.
Easier that way? Yeah.
We would feature him. Your
featured. Mark said he installed ZellaJ. So I know of IntelliJ. Never heard of ZellaJ. Have y'all heard of that?
Never. No idea.
Mark, please explain. Also, if y'all are ready, I can go ahead and kick us off.
Terminal.
Oh, yeah.
Terminal multiplexer similar to TMUX. I never understood what TMUX is for.
Okay, here's the gist.
Okay.
I used to work on a bunch of servers, right? Like rack mounted servers. And sometimes you need to be logged into a bunch of remote machines at once. Enter TMUX. You can kind of think about it like a terminal with tabs, but TMUX is all just kind of side by side.
Yeah. I remember people using it, and I kind of knew that basic idea, but for some reason, a deeper explanation.
It does more, but I think I only scratched the surface. Okay. I was fresh out of college, and I had no idea. Dude, thanks, Braden.
Insomnia is a good one.
I didn't know what to put here. I don't want to be Guy at Atlassian, one of thousands.
Oh, Cowboy Cutter. I thought they were saying shiny new tools. Yeah, you had cool person.
Yeah, Insomnia Postman Alternative. I've heard good things about that. Jared Jackson, morning on YouTube. Morning.
Insomnia one's good if you're working with a team because you can pay for a team account and then share different requests and feeds and things like that.
Cool.
Yeah, I use Insomnia.
Do you?
Yeah.
Nice. I've done a couple of videos of moving away from Postman to something else. So one was the Thunder Client extension, which is really great. Another one was the similar extension from Rapid API, which is just newer. I think had a little less features, but I got a lot of like pushback and questions from people like, can it do this feature in Postman, etc. And like part of my answer is like, well, I don't do any of that fancy stuff because I'm not working with like a legit team, right? So like, so those things work perfect for me.
I am the team.
Yes, it is me. Thank you. Yeah. Are y'all ready to kick it off? We can go ahead and dive in.
Let's do it.
Cool. So again, topic today is just shiny new tech tools we've enjoyed, or shiny new tools. I guess it doesn't have to be tech, but probably mostly tech related. And if people have, I'm curious if people want to like add their stuff that they're excited about recently in the chat. I'd love to kind of bring those up and learn about something new as well. So make sure to share those in the chat with us as we go along. And I'll get the music queued up and start the intro. Welcome everyone to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web development and design with a little bit of zest. And this episode, we're going to do kind of a refresher episode on our favorite shiny new tech and tools.
Web development and design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compressed.
What's up, everyone? My name is James Q. Quick, and I am a full-time technical content creator.
Hello, my name is Amy Dutton, and I am the director of design.
Hey, y'all. I'm Brad Garapi, and I am a guy at Atlassian.
I didn't even say Zeal.
Oh, yeah.
I just said I'm the director of everything.
I'm the director of design of most of the world. It's
Oh, my goodness. Well, and I was kind of laughing at myself because I was trying to make sure we had the notes. And then I heard you, James, and I felt like a TV broadcaster. I was like, hello.
I feel like it worked well, though. We got most of the things across that we wanted to say. The one thing we didn't get across is Brad's new official nickname, which is Brad the Cowboy Coder Garapi. So
it fits
need
so
to
well.
embrace that. It does.
Texas.
Yeah, the Texas. Yeah.
Austin's going to be crazy this week.
Oh, yeah. It's
awesome
South by Southwest.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
But we're getting out, so.
Good for you.
You're going to Mexico this weekend.
We're going to Mexico. Yeah, we leave
for
for
the wedding.
Guadalajara on Sunday.
And the Spanish, how do you feel?
I feel good.
Yeah.
I need to get into the mindset though. I need to shift. You know, as soon as we land, I'll be like Spanish mode.
Spanish, yeah. I love it. I'm excited for you. And jealous. I've been to like Mexico for 2 hours or whatever on a cruise, but not like actually been and spent time in Mexico.
Yeah.
So
like I've only done the beach thing, you know, mostly.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Guadalajara once, but we had a red-eye flight. I was like totally zonked out the whole trip, so I barely remember anything, I feel like. But this time I really want to enjoy it, soak it in. We're going to be there for like 6 days. So really just going to like let my wife's family take me around and have a good time.
You're going to come back and good food. You're going to come back and not know how to speak English.
Yeah,
it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, I really do. I'm like looking forward to immersing myself in the Spanish because last time I was just struggling to listen. This time I'm like ready to speak.
Love it. I'm excited for you.
There's a thing called ultra learning where that's part of it. Like part of learning a new language is just saying like, I'm not going to speak English the whole time I'm there.
Yeah.
And then you could come back and be fluent.
I love it. There's a great question maybe to kick us off for this. So again, this episode is like shiny new tech, shiny new tools, just stuff that we're enjoying using recently. And Cameron Thompson, which is our grab bag MVP. We haven't done I haven't done those in a while, but he's got a question that I think will help kick this off. And it's what factors help you decide to adopt a new tool into your workflow? And this is like the overwhelming thing about being in web development and just tech in general is like things are moving so fast. There's always new tools. Like think about how many tools now are already adopting like AI features in the last like 2 months. It's wild.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like it's fun, but it's also overwhelming. So what are some of the things that come across for you to make you kind of want to adopt something or at least try it out?
I feel like me and Amy have talked about this before in a previous episode. We had this segment about when and why to adopt new technologies. And you have to approach that kind of stuff with so much care, especially if you're a bigger company and it's going to be a large migration, things like that. But most of these tools that I feel like I'm bringing to the table today are like little side things to help make your life easier. And for me, it's just for fun. Whenever anything sparks your interest for these little side tools, like just go pick it up, go grab it, go try it out, see what you think. And if you want to make it a part of your workflow, do it. And most of the time it's like, does it click with you? Does it click with the way you view things and how you work and how you kind of like to be? What do you think, Amy?
It's not as hard to, I think, adopt an application unless you're trying to like figure out hotkeys and things like that. The barrier to entry is a lot lower than if you're trying to apply tech to a project. So a lot of times, I'll just try stuff out to see if I like it, if it makes sense to my workflow. Some of the things that would keep me around depend on like the speed of the app, because I've used things before and the app's really slow. It slows down my computer. Like I'm getting rid of it. Or if I download an app and I just don't find myself going back to it to continue to use it, and there's actually a few on our list that we'll talk about today where that is the case, then I'll get rid of it if it doesn't have a natural fit in my workflow. So there's, different reasons. Sometimes I have a need and I'll specifically go looking for an app that'll accomplish that purpose. And I think, really the biggest barrier to entry is probably cost. But fortunately, a lot of these tools have generous free plans or trials or things like that. There's also a great company, I guess, called SetApp, and you can pay a subscription fee for like $15, but you get like 100 apps. So you wouldn't even necessarily have to maintain that subscription over time, but you could at least see, okay, what are the apps that I like? Get rid of the subscription and then buy the apps if you wanted just to have a one-time flat fee, depending on how many apps you're talking about.
I have like two very different opinions when it comes to like monthly fees for software applications. I'm like super, super, super scrutinizing every dollar, every decision. But if a new $250 piece of tech comes out that I can put on my desk, no question I'm buying it. Like I don't even think twice.
Just that subscription fatigue.
Yeah, I'm like, is this going to continue to add value every month? And it's not necessarily about the total cost. It's about like you're being drained every month, and you have to think this has to be core to what I'm doing. I almost feel it like this. I have to earn this much more a month in order to justify. Otherwise, it's not providing me the value.
Right. Well, and the whole reason I mentioned SetApp is it's better to pay $15 a month, go in and try 10 apps than to say, okay, I'm going to pay $25 for these 100 apps. And then you drop $250 and you don't even know if you like the apps or not.
Yeah.
So,
subscriptions, they're tough. I mean, like I'm such a financially like aware, responsible person, and like as I make more money, I'm like more willing to spend money on stuff. But I don't like the idea of subscriptions specifically because it's a commitment that you have to make versus like I know I have the money to pay for this thing up front. Not that I'm gonna like go broke next month, but like I may not want that recurring thing, even if it's a smaller monthly charge. But that's got to be a challenge for people that are actually creating products. And I'm curious, Amy, if you want to kick us off with this one. I don't know what this is. I'm like really curious where this goes.
Let me throw one more thing in there about the subscription piece of it. So I have a reminder on my calendar every month to check my subscriptions. So I will go through and check to make sure, like, did any creep in that I don't want to stick around? The other thing is when I do set up a trial, I'll also set up a reminder on my calendar for when the trial ends so that it's not one of those things, if they do ask for your credit card information, that it sneaks into your budget or your bottom line. So just a couple of hacks I use. So the first one that I put on my list, this is for hardware, and this is my latest experiment. So it is the Newfie Air 75, and it is a mechanical keyboard. So I've watched so many YouTube videos, like an absurd amount of YouTube videos on mechanical keyboards for someone that's not even interested in it. And then I finally was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And so I've been experimenting with it. I was telling Brad, I have mixed feelings about it, and I'll explain. So I have the Mac Chiclet keyboard, and I really do love this keyboard. I know people are going to complain about it, or people complained about the butterfly keyboard, but I love the butterfly keyboard. The thing that gets me about this one is it's nice and quiet. So if I'm in a meeting, I feel like I can type. If I'm recording a podcast, I feel like I can type without being disruptive. But there's a few things in terms of layout that I've gotten used to this keyboard that has made the other one difficult. So for example, this has like little baby arrow keys on the bottom right, and the mechanical keyboard has real size keys. And so I found trouble reaching for something, or there's a row of keys here on the far right. And so when I reach for the back backspace key, sometimes I'll end up hitting page up and it's like the entire page jumps. I'm like, what just happened? I just wanted to delete something. So it has taken a little bit of getting used to. Sometimes I feel like, oh yeah, I'm being productive, clickety clack. But I still find myself with now 2 keyboards on my desk. So
go ahead.
I'm big into the mechanical keyboard space. I would say, I don't know, like I have one, but like I scrutinize over the decision for sure. And I think form factor was like very much my primary driver and decision, because they come in so many different layouts. I have to have a separate arrow key section. So like I have the separate cluster down there on the bottom right. And I still really like, where is it? Like page up and page down right here. Naturally,
you don't have labels on your keyboard.
No, yeah.
I just noticed
none.
Like, it all looks like an F, except I don't think that's enough. I think it's just a shape.
So the hardest part of that was the number row.
I was gonna say the numbers.
So hard to get used to, but now I can pretty much type numbers without looking down.
That's great.
Like
that sounds like a superpower.
Anytime I have to type in like a credit card number, I'm like, damn it. Or like the 6-digit verification codes. If they auto submit after 6, I screwed them up so many times.
Well, it's not even like the number row. I also think about the function row. Like I also use the play pause, the music,
really?
back a song, forward a song, mute, volume. I use all of that. Brightness.
I have a separate tool on my desk for a lot of that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that later. Yeah.
Do you want to use that? I was going to actually go to you next and see if you wanted to pick one. Do you want to transition to that now?
I think that's probably my favorite, to be honest. It's called a Stream Deck Plus. So if you stream or do content or anything like that, you're probably familiar with an Elgato Stream Deck. It's basically like a button pad of like, let's say 10 or 12 buttons. But they came out with a new thing called the Stream Deck Plus. And so not only does it have buttons, also has an LCD touch bar and 4 knobs that you can rotate and click. So I used to have this thing called the Go XLR and I loved it, but it was Windows only. And I liked it because you have your physical faders and a big mute button for your mic. I would cough and stuff and just mute or whatnot.
I just muted mine to drink coffee, by the way. So that would be perfect.
So like now I've got this Stream Deck thing where it can do so much more. It can do everything that this Go XLR can do, but with all the Stream Deck buttons, it has full integrations into your computer. So like it can change your OBS scenes. It can play, pause your Spotify. I can turn on or turn off my light, and rotate the knobs for volume and all that stuff. So very, very cool, very handy.
Oh, my dog. I feel like Stream Deck just rebuilt the magic touch bar on the Mac.
Yeah. They're like, we can give this to you in a completely different form factor, and it only costs
$200.
Especially if you have an M1. You lost the magic toolbar, so it's not now like, oh, here's a tool.
I never used it.
Not a fan.
I need a physical button for sure. And my computer runs in clamshell mode, so I don't ever touch it.
Oh yeah. Well, so here's a hot take on the touch bar. The biggest key that messed me up was the escape key. And I think a lot of developers would say that too, because it wasn't a tactile key that you could reach for. So I use, I think, Carabiner. I actually didn't even add that on my list to be able to remap my keyboard. So I made this bottom right command key to be an escape key. And it's fantastic. So I've gotten used to that, continue to use that. The other thing, and I actually wrote a blog post about it, I can include a link, but I turned my caps lock key into a hyper key, which is like hitting Shift, Control, Option, and Command all at once. And so you get a whole lot more shortcut keys. But I did use my caps lock key, but I never used my right shift. So I turned the right shift into a caps lock key.
Yeah. Who uses right shift?
Not me.
Anybody?
For people that use it, don't feel bad though. That sounded very insulting.
Proper way to type.
It's okay, but I definitely don't use mine.
It's the right way to type, but
you're supposed to use both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're typing a letter with your left hand, you're supposed to use right shift. If you're typing a letter with your right hand, you're supposed to use left shift.
Yeah.
I just ignored that in typing class.
I did too.
I've gone through phases of wanting to actually learn better how to type, and like I'll do it a little bit for a little while, and I just go back to like how I'm most productive, which it is what it is. But yeah, I definitely don't use right shift either.
So we already know that I'm a nerd, and so this is
Obviously.
fine. But after I got my new keyboard, I did go take a typing speed test
Nice.
to see
Yeah.
how much it affected my speed. And I can type 10 words per minute faster on the mechanical keyboard.
No way.
What?
Yes.
Just like no changes other than just the keyboard?
No. And I did a few
What?
tests on both to see, okay,
Yeah.
is this just a fluke? But yeah, consistently 10 words faster.
Wow.
On the mechanical, you said.
Yep.
I wonder if it's because of the travel of the keys, where it's like it's giving you better feedback of when you can get off the key. You know what I mean? Because the little
travels
chiclet
farther?
keyboard, you don't necessarily know exactly when it's depressed and released.
Yep.
Funny you said depressed and released, and I was like, why would the key be sad? But that's terrible. I'm getting ready with my dad jokes.
What's your speed, Amy? What's your speed?
It was like 105 on the mechanical and 95 on the chiclet.
Okay. I don't know what mine is, but I'm really curious now. If people want to share, if you can beat Amy in a typing test, please tag us at Compressed FM on Twitter.
Man.
I would love to hear that.
I'm trying to like I don't know how to share my monkey type. There's like
can you like share a record or whatever?
I'm trying. Mine's about 139. I have
What?
on here. Yeah.
Oh no.
Here we go. Here we go.
I'm so competitive.
In the chat. There we go.
Gosh, Amy, that's really embarrassing for you. That's so
It's very
far behind.
embarrassing. Very embarrassing.
Brandon in the chat is 140 words.
Dang, dude.
Boom.
I got to get 1 word per minute faster to catch you.
So this monkey type, is it can you compete with other people?
I think so. I think you can like add friends and there's public leaderboards and stuff. But to me,
I
like
was like,
this is
otherwise,
the best
have
typing
idea.
test. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Oh yeah. New thing to build.
That's right. Amy, do you want to pick another
Did you
one
pick
from
one?
your list?
You
I
didn't
haven't.
pick
I've
one.
only gotten a couple, so
Okay.
I figured I'd spread the love around.
Well, this is not a stellar pick, and the fact that it's not new. So wah wah.
You're
But
fired.
bye.
Oh, you actually left. I was like, no.
I was just joking. Hopefully that didn't mess up our feed. So Notion, I run everything out of Notion and could not do without it. I have it on my phone. I'm constantly accessing when I'm on the go. I run my tasks, I run projects, everything runs through Notion. So I write in Notion. It's been a fantastic tool for just helping keep everything together, and it's all in one place. So if Notion's not your jam, because I know it's not a lot of people's, Obsidian is another great alternative. We were even talking about that today during stand-up. And one of the cool things I will say about Obsidian is Swix, for example, and we've had him as a guest on our podcast. He uses Obsidian. He's set it up so that it will back up to GitHub. And so he has all of his markdown files. And that's really the benefit of Obsidian is you're using markdown files. You kind of own all of your data. You're not putting on somebody else's server. But he has that backing up to GitHub and has made that public. And Obsidian even has an interface where you can pay subscription, $10 a month, and share pages publicly as well.
Yeah, we use Notion for everything for the podcast. I use Notion for everything for content. And Gooseman has a good comment in the chat that I think is relevant to today. So I haven't tried this and I don't know anything specifically about it, but Notion now has an AI feature. Lots of different platforms now are having AI features. So even if it's like a tool or a platform that you've been using for a long time, keep an eye out for these new features using AI. This is something I think I want to kind of not necessarily build my brand around, but expect me to be paying a lot of attention and potentially content around AI. Because I'm kind of really into the idea of like how it can change some of our workflow. And if that's a good enough transition, I might jump to an AI one. Brad, did you have anything that you want to add first, or Amy?
I was just going to say, did you see the ChatGPT subscription price? Wasn't it like $40 a month or something?
42. Yeah.
What's the subscription? Like, what does the subscription get you?
I just heard the number getting tossed around. I assume it's just for like, a certain
for
number.
Premium access. So I don't know if you've ever gone to ChatGPT and it says, hey, there's tons of people. Sorry, come try again. So that $42 gives you premium access. And apparently it's a little bit faster. I have heard on Twitter, and by heard, I mean like one person tweet, that it's not worth it. They're like, I paid for it and I still get the message that says it's down and speed seems to be the same.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. The thing I was looking at recently was just the general cost of like per transaction, which was like 2 cents a transaction or something, I think. So I don't know how that gets affected with a subscription model. But one of the things that I am super excited about right now is there's lots of tools leveraging AI coming out to help content creators create content. And so one that I'm a fan of, but I haven't used it in a while, and I think they've added a bunch of new features, is Contenda. I may have talked about this in the past. So they can like take video, transcribe to blog posts, do like a tweet thread for you, like really cool stuff. But I also just tried a product from a friend of mine, or two friends of mine, Chris Sev and Otto. They both work at DigitalOcean. We're in like a Discord chat together, and they built Video Tap. So this is videotapit.com. Let me make sure that's right, because it's either videotapit.com. And what it does is you give them a YouTube video link, like you just give them the link. It takes the YouTube video, it creates the blog post for you, which again, like just basically leverages the AI model behind the scenes.
Awesome.
But where I find the real power is like you leverage the AI model, but then you build on these amazing features on top. And so an example of that they've done is they have a screenshot editor where I can go through and select a specific timestamp, and it'll grab a screenshot from the video and put it into the blog post. So I try not to do many images in my blog posts just because I don't want to like manage them, to be honest. But if I'm doing like a very visual video and highlighting a feature or like an extension in VS Code or something, I could just go click, 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 add the exact like screenshot from the video that I want. It adds it right in there. It also like automatically generates code snippets, which is really good. And then you just copy and paste that into a markdown file. And I'll tell you about another tool that I've talked about in the podcast before that I'm really excited about for Markdown. But this idea of like leveraging the AI model, sending it some data, getting a response back, but then adding these like amazing user experiences, user interfaces, and just like functionality on top of that, that's where I think the like AI game is really going. So Video Tap is super cool. You can check it out at videotapit.com. And the pricing for that is very simple. It's $1 a minute for video to blog. So if I have an 8-minute video, it's $8 to get the blog post, which for me, looking at like the potential impact of spending $100 a month and generating the SEO value associated with these articles is pretty beneficial. So
can we just like take 2 minutes and rapid fire like ideas for AI products? Because I don't know about y'all. I feel like I already had one. I was like, oh, this could be good.
Go for it. Yeah, shoot.
Everybody feel free to steal it, whatever. But the idea is it's like a it's like a greeting card generator. You could use like type in like the person's name, maybe what you know about them, and what you're celebrating or what you're happy about or what you're sorry for.
Yeah.
And then it will write like a nice message that's very personalized. And then it will also take that generated message and feed it into some kind of image generator and like give an image with it, the same sentiment, you know, like flowers and the wind and the sun. And then boom, it's like, it generates something, hosts it, and you have a URL and you like send that e card, you know?
Yeah. I haven't seen any email platforms really come out with AI stuff yet.
That could be really
that
good
would be
too.
really helpful. Yeah.
I love
sending reject letters, sending accept, you know, things like that.
We could do the whole CFP process for conferences with AI.
Actually,
please don't do
seriously,
that, because that could get dangerous, I feel like. But
it's not half bad though. You give it a bullet point list of like the points you want to make, and then like it makes sentences out of a bullet point list. Not that it's gonna, you know, don't just straight up ask it for an idea, although that could be interesting to generate ideas.
Yeah.
Like, what are good conference talks?
Absolutely.
And then, like, it tells you.
So I was joking about the CFP review process being automated, but with AI, you could absolutely say, give me a description for a talk that has these 3 takeaways.
Yeah. Right.
Or titles.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Titles is great for blog posts or YouTube videos or any of that stuff.
So I've done this with, I saw like someone on YouTube talks about this, and I asked ChatGPT, give me 20 alternative titles for this video titled this. And it gave me like really good titles. Or if you just give it like a topic, like it generated good titles. So anyway, like the ideas are endless. I think it's super exciting, but I think the power is like wrapping that power with the features and functionality and a good user experience on top of it.
So I saw that come through as James, so it confused me for a second. For people listening, I think Brad
I gotta stop doing
messaged.
that.
It's totally fine. Brad messaged in the comment section that he wrote a love letter to his wife and then asked ChatGPT to write one as well. And I got a little confused because it comes through as James.
James did the
That
same
would
thing.
be-
I guess.
We both
Now I
did it.
am. Yeah.
What I was going to say is on GitHub, there's a feature where you can follow somebody, which is funny because I really don't think of GitHub as a place where I
Social
follow
thing.
people. Yeah, whatever. But I do follow Wes Boss. And so I get a feed. He's in the feed, really, of when he's making commits to things or contributing to repos. And he created a repo the other day all about creating a ChatGPT script. And so I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so I went in and was like looking at his repo about some of the things that he was using. And it actually didn't look that difficult to set up. So I can find the link and share it in the notes if anybody wants to dig through his code.
Just an API, right? Like at the end of the day, it's just like anything else, you know?
Well, and based on the code that I read, it looked kind of like ChatGPT, where ChatGPT, you say, okay, this is the prompt I want to send it. And that's what you did in the script through the API. You just said, this is the prompt I want to send it. And you send it off and you get code back or text or whatever.
Oh, so he's making like the ChatGPT CLI.
So it was pretty cool though, to look at it. I was like, this isn't that difficult.
Then there needs to be like, okay, good segue. There needs to be like a raycast extension or, something like that.
Does someone want to give like the one or 2 sentence overview of raycast? I forget. It's on somebody's list here. I think it's Brad.
It's Amy's list.
Well, I mentioned it and Brad was like, oh, I want to try it. So I'm a huge fan of Alfred. I've used Alfred for years and years. Alfred is free, but you can pay for their power pack. I think I have like a lifetime thing. So when you guys are talking about subscriptions or one-time fees, I just said, I love this app. I'm going to use it forever. And so I just paid the one-time fee and it's come back to my benefit because I'm not having to pay even an annual fee for it or for updates and whatnot. But it does a lot of the same things that Raycast does. And so I actually have Raycast installed as well. Raycast is more developer friendly and I would say doesn't quite have like the training wheels feel that Alfred has. Alfred's more like a WYSIWYG. I'm going to click and do all these things. Whereas Raycast, you can write scripts and have it do different things and stuff like that. With that said, I can like generate or start a terminal script from Alfred. So you can write actual scripts and things like that. But just I'm talking from the interface UI UX perspective. But a lot of times what these apps do is you can launch it. So it is a Spotlight replacement, but you can also run customized things. So I have scripts to run to generate folders. I talked about plop before. So it'll kick off a plop script to create folders and stuff about things like that. You can, I'm trying to think all this stuff. There's a calculator I use all the time. You can do color pickers. You can move files around. You can jump into folders at different places. You can say, open this file in this application. It's pretty robust.
Help me wrap my head around this because I'd never, it was like a unique take to use plop through Raycast. Because in my mind, plop is normally like a repository specific operation, right? Like I'm in my website and I want to generate a blog post, let's say there. So I'm there in a terminal typing npm or npm run plop, whatever. So now you're saying that you can run a plop script to generate anything anywhere based on how you configure it through Raycast.
Yeah. So I found that was a little bit easier to launch in Alfred. I'm sure you can do it in Raycast.
Sure. Yeah,
it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to include a link. I wrote a blog post on Hashnode, so it's going to look like James and Brad shared this out, whatever. Yeah. But what I did was I created these plop scripts and then I created an alias within my ZSH can't talk config file to be able to launch those scripts. And so then I just trigger that from Alfred. So for example, a lot of it has to do more with stubbing out folders. So I type CFM for compressed FM :episode, and it will create that folder structure. So I'm not necessarily coding in that situation. I'm not trying to stub out a component. I'm more working in the Finder and just want it to generate that folder structure for me that way I can drop all the files into it.
Or like you could even abstract it one step further and say like, command space to bring up Raycast, Alfred, whatever, and then be like new blog post. And then that would stub out the folder structure, create the new markdown file where it's supposed to go, generate any images or whatever, and then open your code editor to that path as well. Like you could almost think of it as like a workflow kickoff button.
Yep, you can totally set up workflows.
And that's kind of where I like my Stream Deck. It's like there's I could hit a physical button there if I want to. That could kind of do something similar. So a lot of these tools, do have a little bit of overlap. It's just how you're kicking these things off.
Yeah, I have a friend that's also, I'll find a link to that's created a Notion script for Alfred. So he pulls up the launcher and says like, here's my task. And then it'll create that page. So you're not having to go to Notion, create that entry in the database. It does all that for you. So there's tons of stuff. I also use it for clipboard history. So I run all that through Alfred. And there was something else you said that made me think of something I use in Alfred, but I can't think of it at the moment. One of the nice things is you can see a usage graph. And so I can see I've used Alfred 10,420 times. And I usually average about 30 times a day, at least.
I've heard, you know how everybody does like Wrapped at the end of the year? I've heard like some of these Raycast or some terminals or things like that will give you your Wrapped for the year, like all your top used commands and things like that.
Go ahead.
I remembered that I'm turning into James. Last week, James kept forgetting things.
Embarrassing.
So I use Text Expander to just type a phrase and it'll expand text. So for example, I type _EM and it'll type out my email address. You can move all of that into Raycast or Alfred. And so I'm in the process of moving those over because when you're talking about subscriptions, I'm paying $4.15 a month for Text Expander when you can do all that inside of Raycast or Alfred.
I moved away from Text Expander a while ago because I felt like it was really expensive for what it was. And then I moved into Keyboard Maestro to do that, which was even faster for auto completion on that stuff.
Yeah.
Other kind of developer friendly terminal tools, Brad, in your list, there's Warp and Fig. And I've talked about Fig before on the podcast. I'm a big fan, but I'm also curious specifically about your experience with Warp.
So I'll start with Fig. I really liked Fig. Fig is autocomplete for the terminal, and it works really well. Their autocomplete is very good. It'll like autocomplete all of your custom NPM scripts, your Git commands,
NPM packages if you go to install them.
Yeah. So like really, really helpful there.
It does also, I'll just add in really quickly, it has a lot of extra features too that I think haven't gotten much popularity, like being able to define scripts and like save scripts and have scripts across teams. There's like really quick, they also have an AI feature now, like a lot of these tools have, but keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to the scripts thing next.
Sorry.
My team at work was actually like looking to build a custom CLI. And I said, we could probably just use Fig for a lot of this because that was the deal. Like your team defines workflow, puts it in this thing, and boom, you've got auto completion and, all sorts of great stuff shared across members of your team. Granted, then you'd have to take your company organization and move people over to like a Fig organization. It's not like it integrates with your company's auth. So slight downside. Anyways, Fig was my gateway to like auto completion in the terminal, and Warp was my next step. And I will say Warp is harder to wrap your head around. It's a full terminal, so it's not just autocomplete. I will say Fig's autocomplete is a little bit better, but the way Warp works is that every command and response is like a block. They treat it as like a giant square. And with that square, you can perform operations on it, whether it be sharing it or copying it or saving it. But I don't know. It's not something that I feel like I'm really going to adopt because I so prefer to use my terminal inside VS Code. I don't want to go to a different window, and even then, I can treat my terminal in VS Code like a tab and do a split view and things like that. And so because I have so much flexibility there, it's hard to want a separate application.
And that's
the nice
an
thing,
important distinction. between
And
it and Fig.
yeah,
It's like Fig being a plugin for a terminal versus Warp being its own terminal.
Yeah.
I
Sorry.
was gonna say you can use Fig inside of VS Code
Mhm.
because of
Yes,
that.
yes. So
Yeah.
you get the benefit of the autocomplete. I don't necessarily need all the fanciness around terminal management. VS Code pretty much has split tabs and, new terminal windows and things like that. Although I want better mapping for VS Code workspaces. Like if I open up a workspace with, let's say, a front end and a back end repo in there, I kind of want to be able to define, open up 2 terminals and here are their start commands.
You can do that.
You can?
Yeah,
I
I
would
saw
love to
Chris
do that.
Coyer tweet about it. He was like, I
Ah.
know that as soon as I open this workspace, these are all the things that I want to do. I'll see if I can find it.
Including terminals and start commands
Yeah,
and all that stuff.
Yep.
Oh man,
He's like,
that's
go ahead
what
and
I
launch
want.
everything. If I'm
Yeah.
opening this, I'm doing the same things.
Oh, that's sick.
Let me see if I can find it. Continue on.
Continue on. I could take one. So I have heard about Arc for months. Arc is a relatively new browser, although at this point it's probably been around for a couple of years, I would imagine. I think it's probably still in like you have to have an invite to get in type thing. I'm not 100% sure about that, but a couple of people tried recently and I think they do.
I've
You
got
have your
5
invite? Yeah.
invites. DM me at
Mhm.
Brad Garapi. I'm
Yeah.
happy to hand them out.
And I've got 3 left, I think. And I'm sure like if I ask them, I could get some more. So if people want to get access, send one of us a DM. But it's a new browser, and I think part of the big focus of it is just minimalism. So like you can hide the sidebar. I'll come back to that in a second, and then basically just have full screen browser experience, which you don't really have. I guess I have shortcuts that I can use to do that in Google Chrome too, but that's kind of nice. And then they also have this idea of like spaces, and they have pin tabs. And so it's trying to kind of like optimize your experience with working with tabs, which is really interesting. And one of the very cool things is under these pin tabs, if you pin certain specific tabs that have support for this, they have like previews. So if you hover on the Google Calendar tab, for example, it actually pops up with a preview of your calendar and then gives you an icon in there to create a new one. So it'll actually open up your calendar page. That's really cool. And then there's split pane, which is really cool. You can have 2 pages side by side. It has a video, like if you're playing a YouTube video and you go to another tab, it can have like a pop out experience that you can drag it around and stuff. So there's some really neat stuff in here. I've enjoyed Arc so far. I will say I haven't found it like game changing yet. Like I'm comfortable enough to stay with it for the time being, but I haven't found it like I would have to have this versus going back to Chrome right now. But it's only been literally like 24 hours. So I'm kind of curious to see like what other tips and tricks I find. And if other people have things that they really like and tips and tricks, please send them to me because I'd love to try out like new things that I hadn't thought about before.
So for me, this goes back to the previous conversation we had at the top of the episode where it was like, how do you decide what tools should stick around?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like every time I go to it, I think it's beautiful and I love the concept of it. But I keep wanting to go up to the URL bar at the top and it's not there. It's over on the side. And so it just feels really clunky and I just haven't given it enough time to transfer over. I still live in Chrome for developer tools and things like that. So it's like Chrome is my default and I'm just trained to go to Chrome.
So think that way.
So it's like it's open on my machine right now and I look at it very fondly and want to like it. I just haven't transitioned. But I think for me, one of the biggest power features is the split pane view. And I love being able to have, especially when I'm trying to go in between 2 websites to transfer information or reference something, to be able to have that view. But I just haven't moved over to it full time.
I'm in the same boat. I tried it for a couple days. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's like nothing that's pushing me to move over. I've got all my passwords saved in Chrome, so like it's just something that is a slight barrier. But also like for development, I would say it's not the best because of the fact that the URL bar isn't prominently displayed. And I know that when I was doing work, scaffolding out these new projects, I was doing a lot of like, typing URLs into the URL bar because I was building the navigation and testing how these flows work. And it's just harder to get to the URL bar and see what's going on. Even while making like affiliate links for products today, I was like copying and pasting, parts of the URL, and it just gets harder to do in Arc a little bit. So maybe it's for your, entertainment browsing experiences and not necessarily development tasks. But I don't know. I'd rather have one thing that works for everything than two things.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting because I feel like I don't know if they're specifically targeted this way, but I think developers respond to Arc because of the kind of command palette idea. So, like if you do Command T, you get this command palette experience that you're used to from VS Code, for example, where you can type in commands or you can open up a new tab or whatever. So I think that's something that people have resonated with or developers have. There's also, haven't quite fully understood this. If you're running localhost, so if you open a localhost URL, it has a separate task or a separate URL bar at the top.
Yeah.
And I don't quite know why that's there and why it's different, but that does give you visibility more into the full URL.
I didn't even think about that. Yes, it's because, when you're developing, you want that.
You want to see, yeah.
Another really good feature is the way they customize, or you can inject like JavaScript and CSS to sites. They do a much better job at that than writing some Chrome extension or something like that.
Yeah. I didn't want to do like back to back, but I feel like this is too good of a transition. So another tool that I've tried recently is Polypane, and this is specifically a browser for web development. And to be clear, it's not a browser that is even intended to replace your full browsing experience. So you'd still use Chrome for like whatever you use it for. You still use Arc for whatever you use it for. Specifically for web development, though, Polypane has, in my mind, like some really incredible features. And so one of the things right off the bat that they have, and this is from Killian, I did a live stream with him recently, and he walked me through all the features and stuff. But right off the bat, you see like multiple resolutions or viewports kind of side by side in the browser. So you see like small, medium, large, for lack of like more detailed explanation. And when you scroll in one, it actually has a synchronized scroll across all of them, which is neat. It can auto infer your breakpoints and create all of those different views inside of Polypane, which is neat. It has tons of tools for accessibility. So it like has accessibility checkers. It gives recommendations. It like has red flags that pop up that like show you where to go and make these changes. Has a built-in color picker, which is like simple but really nice. It has a sidebar thing that you can pop open, which shows you like the metadata of your site. So if you've ever like worked on like checking your metadata, the title, the OG image and stuff, if you want to see if that stuff is correct, you have to go into the inspect developer tools and like go and
click
find
through
it.
1,000 things in the head. Yeah, totally.
And try to find it. So this gives you like just a quick visualization of that, in addition to card preview. So if you were to post this to Twitter, to LinkedIn, to Facebook, to Discord, it shows you right there like what the preview is. And I don't think there's a good alternative for doing that with localhost URLs, because usually you can find one, but you have to go and give it like your deployed URL. This one can do this with localhost. So that's been one that I was really blown away to see like all of those things, plus so many more that I like haven't even touched on. So I've really enjoyed getting to know more about Polypane recently as a browser specifically for the web development experience, not necessarily one to like completely replace anything else that's going on.
Sizzy does a lot of that stuff too, if you've heard of that one.
What is that?
I love the creator of Sizzy.
Sizzy?
Really?
Okay, I haven't heard of that. Who is the creator?
His name is Kitse. I'll have to link his Twitter. He's hysterical, like really funny personality. Does some vlogs about working on Sizzy and stuff like that. And he's had that product out for a while now.
Oh, cool.
I'm curious how they stack up. Have you used both, Amy?
I've not used Polypane.
Okay.
Sizzy is a like $7 a month subscription, so it's one that I've turned on and off.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks like it. I'm on the pricing page now. It looks like it's $12 a month if paid annually with a 14-day trial. Do you know how to compare
really
like features?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to check. But it really is great if you're doing a lot of responsive work, and that's when I've like turned it on. And then once I'm done with the project, I've turned it off. But it is nice to be like, oh, I didn't break it. And this is making sure that it looks good on all resolutions.
Yep. Can I do like a semi pet peeve rant thing that came across when I published this video on Polypane?
Yes.
Are we okay with that? So developers are cheap. I'm cheap. Like I totally get it. People aren't willing to pay for stuff. But the fact that there's so many comments anytime I reference something that is paid, and I clarified this right up front in the video, it's paid. It's a paid product. Here's a discount code just because it's not an affiliate link. I don't make money. I wasn't asked to do this video. Something I just thought was valuable for people. take it or leave it, like if you enjoy it or not. But there's so many comments from people saying like this should never be a paid thing. It's ridiculous. Like if it's not for you and it's not worth it to you value wise, totally understand. Absolutely no problem with that. But I think we forget that like people put hours and hours and weeks and months and years into developing tools and try to build a business. And that's a totally legitimate thing to do. Like developer time is not free. That's the most expensive thing that I have in my life is my time. My time is very expensive. And so I think we just forget that like so many people create such amazing free content that we just assume everything should be. But also there's a time and a place like either to support or just to like know it's worth investing because of the benefits that you get from it.
Yeah. Scott Talinsky has a similar story because he was creating all these courses and videos for free on YouTube. And then when he moved over to Level Up Tutorials, started asking people to pay for it. I don't even feel like it's an absurd amount of money. People were complaining. And he's like, are you like, it's free. Like I need to be compensated for my time. Oh man.
Yeah. And I think this is actually a really good pivot point here just to talk about, you know, when and why you adopt new tools, because at the end of the day, your time is valuable. You can't necessarily go out there and try every new thing, you know? A lot of times people are building awesome stuff with basic tools. Why? Because they're spending their time working on the thing that they want to build instead of screwing around with, you know, the latest piece of tech or trying this new piece of software. And at the end of the day, I think settle into something that really works for you, make it effective, streamline your process, and it's okay to stick with it. You don't have to be up on the new hotness. And I feel like I've been a little bit more shut down to trying a bunch of new things lately or joining a bunch of new communities and stuff, mostly because like I really want to increase my level of focus and speed of delivery in general. And I think it's been working for me, honestly.
That's a great point in terms of speed. So that's the bucket that I would put like GitHub Copilot in. Because if you look at it, you're like, oh man, $10 a month, that's $120 a year. But I'm like, it has definitely saved me tons and tons of time. It like makes me a faster, better developer. Why not pay for that?
Yep. I haven't pulled the trigger on paying for it. I think my classic reason not to is that it changes the activity of writing code into an activity of reading code. And for me, I like writing code more than reading code.
Yeah, I just look at it as an advanced intelligence is how I kind of
for sure
think about it. Yeah. I'll do a couple other ones. I don't think there's a fantastic segue, but a couple that I'll put in a similar bucket. One that I've been experimenting with is a Get Later app, and it's a little hard to Google, so I'll include a link. And the reason it's hard to Google is because there's a social media platform called Later, but Hidden Me does the exact same thing. But what that does is it allows you to hide any icons or files that you have on your desktop if you're trying to screen share or do any kind of presentation. So my personal hack is I have my icons at like old lady large print edition, so they're huge. But the reason why is they take up space very quickly, and so it forces me to keep my desktop clean. It's not because I have trouble seeing them; it's because I want to be reminded to clean them off. So, but even with that said, this app is great for being able to hide that stuff. Another good one is Swish. This is a recent one that I've been experimenting with, but I have a trackpad. There were some haters this week on Twitter about real mice versus trackpads and all that, but I love my gestures. And so one of the things that Swish does is it allows you to use gestures to close apps or minimize them, which is kind of interesting.
On your, so like, do you have an example of like a gesture that you use?
Yeah, so there's gestures that you can use with keyboard modifiers. So I can say maybe like control with 2 fingers down and that will minimize it.
Yeah.
Or I can do like pinch twice on it and it'll quit it. So kind of neat.
Okay.
And to me, the pinch twice is important because I'm constantly in Figma, and as a designer, I'm pinching in and
Moving
out.
around,
so it's not like I wanted to close the app every time I try and zoom in or zoom out on the what I'm working on.
Yeah, those are sometimes hard. Those are sometimes hard for me. I'll give you a specific example. Like once you get into keyboard shortcuts for things, it's hard to beat them. Like if you have a keyboard shortcut to do a thing, it's hard for any other potential workflow to replace it. An example of this is I was watching a video about Arc, and one of the things they do is they give you a shortcut, which I think is kind of nice for copying the URL directly. So you don't have to go up to the bar, you don't have to click. You can do Command Shift on Mac, Command Shift C. It'll copy the URL. That's really cool. The reason that's not as cool specifically for me is there's an existing to shortcut thing that I'm so good at that it's almost exactly the same amount of time. Like it's literally milliseconds slower. And that is Command L takes you to the search bar and selects the whole thing, and then Command C. So I literally just Command L, Command C like immediately. So it's hard to replace that for me. But I did find that there's an additional shortcut that this might blow your mind. Inside of Arc, I think it's Command Option Shift C. I have to double check this. And it copies the link in Markdown format, which means you could paste that directly into a, yeah, see the reaction there? You can copy that right into a Markdown file, and you don't have to do like the bracket name, blah, blah, blah. That's cool.
That is very cool.
Yep. Let's see. I think I'm going to move into like some software tooling. We've done a lot of like applications and things like that, but I just want to call out like ESBuild. Like, thanks, buddy, for being just super fast. And you got a CLI tool, you got a JavaScript API. Like, you want to compile TypeScript or strip types out of TypeScript and turn it into JavaScript? Man, ESBuild is just so good. And I've been finding that I just sleep easier at night in any app that I'm using it in, whether it's used by the build tool or I'm like using it specifically in a CLI that I built at work. It just makes things so much faster.
Can you help? I've never fully gone down this rabbit hole. ESBuild versus Vite versus what are the things that like we would have used before them? Can you help clarify that for me?
Yes. Okay. So starting at the very beginning.
Yep.
TypeScript. When you install TypeScript, you have TSC, the TypeScript compiler. It's a CLI tool. It does two main things. One is it does type checking. That's a very expensive thing to do. And TSC is really the only thing that does type checking today. Supposedly, they're going to write something in Rust to make it all faster or whatever.
Obviously.
Yeah. So that's like the OG. That's the only thing that you can do type checking on. Type checking is slow. But TSC also outputs the JavaScript. So it'll strip the types out. So type checking is slow, but transpiling TypeScript to JavaScript is actually stupid fast. You could just rip out all the types and be done with it. So tools like ESBuild and SWC have come out that they're like, we don't do any type checking at all. All we do is the transpile from TypeScript to JavaScript. So it can be really fast. And so now there's tooling built on top of those like Vite, other things on top of there, where that's what they use to run your dev servers. Oh, hey, look, we don't type check. We'll do that in a separate process or whatever. But like, if you want to build something, we're just going to transpile and not do the checking, and it can be really fast.
And then Vite also does like, I don't know if ESBuild does too, like the bundling part of it too, like regardless of TypeScript, but actually following the tree of like imports and stuff.
Yes, yeah, ESBuild can do the bundle as well.
Cool.
Yep, or have multiple entry points. There's lots of it is kind of like Webpack, where it's like, do you have 5 different entry points that you want to build in bundle? Do you have a single one? How many bundles you want to make? What do you want to name them? Where do you want them output? Stuff like that's all configurable.
Gooseman said, if you loved struggling with Webpack, who didn't? ESBuild is the next generation. Then there was Rollup that uses ESBuild, and now Vite making those toolings even more simple. Yeah.
And the only reason why
TurboPack.
The only reason why Webpack was complicated was because of all the different loaders. Like if you just like don't transform files when you import them, life is simpler. Like Amy, me and you were talking about SVGs and the way Webpack had this crazy thing where if you imported a raw SVG file, it would turn it into a React component. And people thought that's how it actually worked. Instead of like, oh no, that's just a bunch of HTML. You have to like do stuff with it.
Well, and I even had some scripts set up with Gulp to handle a lot of that.
Yeah.
Gulp. Haven't heard that word in a long time.
I miss it. Can I be honest?
You can
bring it back.
She's just dating herself more.
I know. It happens.
Although it wasn't gulp and like grunt and gulp were the thing when I first started in what the like 2016 or whatever. They were they're still popular then, but then quickly it is interesting how quickly stuff gets replaced because it was like Webpack was like everything to us, and then over the course of like a year, like nothing new would use Webpack basically. Like it was all kind of this big shift. It's intimidating how quickly stuff evolves.
I'm gonna swing back the other way, a little tug of war here, and talk about a couple more applications, and maybe we can pass on picks and plugs because this whole episode has been picks and plugs.
Well, we could also. I was thinking we could also split this into two if we wanted to too.
What do you mean?
Like a part 1, part 2.
Oh yeah, we can do that. Oh, okay. So I'll hold on to mine.
Oh, we don't have to. Well, we could.
Stay tuned.
You want to leave on a cliffhanger like that?
Yeah, let's leave on a cliffhanger.
Okay.
We got lots more, folks.
Lots more. Well, do we want to do picks and plugs then?
Yeah.
Wrap up.
Yeah.
Anyone want to kick us off?
I had a few queued up. I just have to see. I've already talked about the things. Oh, I do have one. Right. So this is, you didn't say I could go, but I'm going to go. This is an iPhone app, so it's slightly different, but my kids are just trying to work on their math facts right now. And I have one that is working on addition, another one that's working on multiplication. And they're both having to take like these time tests where they work through so many problems in a minute. So there's a iPhone app called Mental Math. Talk about subscription fees. It's, I think, $199 a month. But the cool part is it's
$199?
Yeah, no. Oh. Thank you, James. $1.99 USD. But it also has AI inside of it. So it will check if your kid has problems with a particular math problem, and it'll keep asking that problem until they get it right. You can also see the results to know how they're doing and which problems they're missing. And then it'll also tell them about how long they're taking per each problem. So it's fun for them. They like being able to practice their math facts on my phone, and anything that you can do to make it fun and help them is beneficial. So Mental Math iPhone app. And then for my plug, I'm actually going to plug Hashnode. I've written a couple of blog posts, but we actually referenced one of them today was that Plop.js article. I also wrote another one on 65, which is crazy. 65 VS Code extensions. So you don't have to run all of them. Obviously, you don't want to slow down VS Code, but there's a few good ones in there that have really sped up my workflow. And if you do want to install all of them, actually, Gooseman pointed me to a feature in VS Code where you can save your profile and then share that profile with other people. So it already has all of those extensions pre-installed. So
also created an extension pack. You wanted, that's probably a little bit of a challenge with that many. Like I doubt everyone will want all of them, but you could do that.
Yep.
And then there's a new feature in VS Code like profiles or something.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh, nice.
So I just like exported out my profile. So if you wanted all the settings that I have, and then it copies that. Yep.
Brad, are you ready?
Next.
I'm ready. Okay, so my pick is going to kind of go along with the Stream Deck. So for the longest time, I had this Go XLR that was Windows only, and I needed to find something that was cross-compatible because I'm considering moving fully over to Mac. So I got the Stream Deck for controlling everything, but I needed like a better audio interface. And I went with this thing called the Wave XLR. It's an Elgato product. It pairs super well with the Stream Deck. And because, they run software on the background, you can have, buttons and automations that like mute your mic, change the volume, do all sorts of things like that. It's powered by USB, which is amazing. You don't have to plug it into the wall and everything. And it's cross-platform. So I've really enjoyed using the two. So now my desk is much cleaner. They're smaller, and I just have the Stream Deck Plus and the Wave XLR, and that's how I run my whole audio setup. And then I'm going to keep banging the drum, plugging my YouTube channel, youtube.com/BradGarapy. Still struggling on the watch time. It's pretty stagnant at about 2,800 hours, but New videos are coming because I've done a lot of work on my website and I really want to talk about it all. So the Tailwind conversion and the Remix conversion are now done, and I really want to like just show you the results, talk about the progress, and make some cool videos on it.
I want to hear about your markdown setup, because I know you've done tons of stuff with like Rehype and all that, trying to get it set up.
Yeah, it's too complicated for what it is. I'm really trying to make it better. I think it might be time to just move over to MDX, to be honest.
Oh,
And
I thought you were
think
going
it'll
to say
solve a lot of
Astro.
problems.
Astro for
Remix
the
has
win.
built-in MDX support too, so like I think
Oh,
it
cool.
will fix a lot of problems.
I was just thinking about migrating. I don't think it'll take almost any work at all, but migrating my Markdown to MDX specifically for with tagged articles. I could, well, I guess actually I'm talking about two different things, but I was going to add like a standard call out component for like, check out this course. So if I
Yeah.
write Astro content, then I could have this like fancier styled call out component that that would say like, if you want to learn more, check out the course type thing. But we'll see if I get there. Cool. I am gonna plug. I did a stream on this yesterday, but I'm gonna plug the next Cloudinary package. And this is Cloudinary is one of my favorite tools. You can do image or not just image, but media optimization and transformations. And one of the things specifically that you could do is like overlay text. So you can in the URL just say like, add this piece of text on top of this image with this font size and this location, etc. And add overlays, which is really neat. You can also do that with images. We use this to automatically generate images for the podcast, which I think is cool. And Colby Fayak, a good friend of ours, been on the podcast before, created a package specifically for working with Cloudinary in Next.js. And it actually translates underneath the hood to the native or to the built-in image component with Next.js. So you get all the optimizations that come with that as well. And basically what he does is he generates the Cloudinary URL that represents the image and then passes it off to next image. And so I use this on the stream to rebuild the JQQ meme generator. So Amy and I kind of worked on that together a while ago. And I was using Canvas, which was like way more difficult than what it needed to be.
And SVGs?
Amy did it with SVGs and loved that. And now I'm doing it with Cloudinary, which was like super easy.
Even better.
Yeah, super cool. So I love that. And I'm planning on incorporating that with like AppWrite, which is another product that I'm excited about. So anyway, the next Cloudinary package, if you want to use Cloudinary images and take advantage of their transformations, you can do that with this inside of Next.js. And then I've shared this a few times, so I'm starting to like do my planning for my Astro course. The domain is published, but there's nothing there yet. So if you're interested in updates and announcements, you can subscribe to my newsletter at jamesqquick.com/newsletter. Any last thoughts?
I think that's all we got.
That's it.
I love how abruptly we are.
I know. All right. That's going to wrap up this episode. If you're listening to the podcast version of this, please leave a rating and a review to help other people find the podcast so we can continue to have on amazing guests like ourselves. In the meantime, that's all we got. We had no guests, so we are the guests.
Yeah, that's funny. We're
Shout out.
featuring Brad.
Featuring Brad. Yes.
Next time we can feature you.
Featuring us. All of us. Thanks everyone for joining. If you have any like additional thoughts of plugins or extensions or apps or tools or whatever it is that you use, send us you tag us on Compressed FM or just like send us a message. I'd love to hear like what are the cool things out there that people love that we haven't tried out yet. I go through these phases, by the way, of like every 6 months or so I go and look up like productivity videos for Mac to like see what other tools and stuff are out there. So I go through these cycles on a semi-regular basis to try to find new stuff.
I still feel like I have a few good ones in the queue. Cliffhanger.
Tease. Yeah. Love that. I'm excited about it. Let me see if there's anyone.
Thanks for hanging out with us, Darren. I think that's a goodbye wave versus a hello wave.
So one gripe I have with Arc browser, by the way, is when you use Control Tab, it only gives you the 5 most recent tabs, which seems silly. So if I want to go to a tab that's like further back in my tab history than 5, I can't get to it with Control Tab, which seems really weird.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I also just saw that Brad Garrett was live, and I was like, oh, I'll raid people over to Brad. But that's in conjunction with the.
That's funny.
I'm going to send everyone over to Jen's channel. So get ready for that. If you're on Twitch, if you're on YouTube, thanks for hanging out. Really enjoy it. We'll talk to you all online. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you later.
See ya.